Carnegie and Walker Evans's Let Us Now Praise Famous Men. His best friend, John Dunbar, who'd been at Columbia with him and found a job teaching English at the California College of Arts and Crafts, had survived being shot down by the Germans over Nazi-occupied France and had published a memorable account of his harrowing trek alone over the Pyrenees. His son, Robbie, a precocious guitarist with a high school band called the Purple Earthquake, inspired by the English rock and roll of the Yardbirds and the Rolling Stones, became my best friend. Czesław Miłosz, the great Polish poet who dissected the fate of intellectuals under Stalinism in The Captive Mind, was another Berkeley iconoclast, albeit of a different sort. Although Miłosz was troubled by what he regarded as the hopeless naivete of student militants, something in his melancholy Central European temperament found common ground with activists hammered by the tragic collision of history with hope. I knew him through his sons, especially Peter, whom I had met in acting class while we were at Berkeley High School. I was dimly aware that their father had written a famous book about the Orwellian world that had so deformed the communist dream. For me, at that time, he was the father we had to beware didn't catch us smoking pot in the garage of their Grizzly Peak home. I regret that I didn't enroll in his class on Dostoevsky at Cal. I spent my afternoons delivering the Berkeley Daily Gazette, a right-wing rag to subscribers living in what is now Berkeley's gourmet ghetto, an appellation that has recently been consigned to history's linguistic dustbin by the woke police. On weekends, I hawked Max Scheer's underground Berkeley Barb along Telegraph Avenue, using my meager profits to buy the books I lusted for at Moe's, Shakespeare's, and a hole-in-the-wall shambles of a second-hand shop called Creed's. I was also a teenage thief, having successfully and brazenly stolen from Moe's an oversized art book whose contents I found irresistible, Dougald Sturmer's The Art of Revolution, a compendium of dazzling political and film posters by Cuban artists, which was introduced by Susan Sontag in an essay that she was too embarrassed to reprint in any subsequent collection of her writings. Whenever I tried to sell books to cigar-chomping Moe, I could count on his unsentimental eye to separate wheat from chaff. If he accepted more books than he rejected, you felt you'd passed your oral exams. He was my strictest teacher, and the one to whom I owe the most. It was impossible to grow up in Berkeley and not be drawn to the archipelago of bookstores that shaped the era. Despite California's fetish for the new and its widespread disdain for history, the reverence for old books among some was palpable. Used bookstores were as ubiquitous as they are now few and far between, many owned by ersatz bohemians who'd migrated to the Bay Area, feeling at home in the region's cosmopolitan maritime mashup. They often resembled hoarders, reluctant to part with the treasures they needed to sell to stay in business. You'd enter their shops, often musty, woody places with dim lighting, chock-a-block with mysterious tomes in leather bindings, some behind locked bookcases, others displayed in glass vitrines. You felt you had to pass some secret and invisible test to pass muster as a potential buyer. This breed of bookseller was not only to be found in Berkeley. Years later, in my mid-20s, Susan Sontag told me of a renowned second-hand and antiquarian bookstore on Amsterdam Avenue across from Columbia University. Called the Ideal Bookstore, it was run by an erudite Romanian Jew, a Holocaust survivor. Specializing in literature, philosophy, antiquity, and the Middle Ages, with a fine selection of poetry, the shop attracted scholars and writers and collectors from around the world. Susan told me that upon entering the store, I should be sure that the proprietor saw me, as he was deaf in one ear, and God forbid he wouldn't know you were there, and then, startled by your presence, have a stroke. The guilt for killing off the last living remnant of Romanian Jewry would be unbearable. I wandered among the shelves, and after an hour or so made my selection. I came to the cash register and placed my small pile of books on the counter. The owner examined each of the books and then looked me full in the face and said he couldn't sell them to me. I said I had enough cash to make the purchase if he didn't want to take my credit card. No, he said.